It's a pretty crunchy sugar.
Let's go back to these. You guys do want to yeah, holding percent. All right, ready to go for one? Cool. Let's go.
Hey everyone, it's Anne-Marie. I used to do a thing called Agony Ann, where people would send in their problems or whatever.
And inspire them, and so it kind of just switched directions. And so with this
Oh, I
project,
sing Tanya sing a little bit. Sorry.
Are you gonna sing now?
In the past, we've always had visual effects shots done at vendors all around the country. Now we can just pass them on to this guy who's working on a station 50 feet from us.
By bringing so much of the post here, it just brings speed and efficiency.
When something comes across that's very challenging and difficult, I always say that how you handle it, no matter in what field it is, will ultimately be how you handle other things in life. I am Maria Sharapova. I am an athlete and an owner of a candy business called Sharapova. I think the first time I really got excited about money was when, after winning Wimbledon, I used to take trips to Los Angeles from Florida to train with a coach, and we could only afford to do that so many times during the year because of the expenses of hotels and travels and all of that. But after winning Wimbledon, we stayed at a much better hotel, and I remember there's a little yellow rubber duck, and I called my manager as soon as I walked into the tub in the bathroom, and I was like, wow, winning Wimbledon is the best thing ever. I get this tub and I get this rubber duck and, the things that a teenager looks forward to.
So how did you learn how to handle money?
I think when you grow up not necessarily having a lot or not necessarily understanding what is a lot and how much it actually takes to work for nothing, I realized that it's not only is it a personal possession, and it's always your choice with what you do, and your actions ultimately determine how far or low it takes you, but it's also being under the influence of really strong characters of parents, very disciplined people that, every single day that taught me something very valuable. My father was more in sports, and something I speak about in my book was that my father was more of the sports influence. And then when I would come home, my mother was the cultural, it was the schoolwork, it was the life lessons, and then I would get the life lessons on the court from my father that kind of transitioned onto kind of my character.
Did you learn or make any mistakes with money that you wish you had known?
I think when you're young, you don't understand you kind of do, but you might not have the resources to understand what an investment really means. Investment can be small, can be large, but in sport, you invest a lot without having any guarantees, and that's maybe tennis is quite different maybe to team sports where you're guaranteed a certain amount, and of course you want to be a champion and your team wants to be a champion, and you do everything to become that. But there's something on the line when you know that you've invested all this money and there's still no guarantee that you'll ever return it back or make more. So with that in mind, my family and I always made decisions based on that. It's like, well, if it doesn't work out, how much could we actually afford? How much do we actually have at our possession?
How involved are you in managing your own finances?
I'd say a lot. I'd say when you start from not much and you make, you make money throughout your career, I think you better be involved in all, from the smallest things to the largest things. I have someone that overlooks my portfolio, but I have constant meetings about it and I make decisions. And I also try to, learning, I think, I didn't have a formal type of education when I was young, and I somewhat became street smart by traveling the world, by having to show up, really. When you go to a tournament, there's so many responsibilities as an athlete. It's not just, yes, it's walking through a tunnel and performing in front of thousands of people, but there's the way that you carry yourself. There's the fans that expect a lot from you in moments when you're down and maybe you haven't had a good match. So I think it's the presence, it's the press conferences, it's the sponsor visits. It takes a lot of people to make something happen, and just realizing that is extremely important to me.
You often talk about feeling isolated when you were growing up. Do you still feel that sense of loneliness?
Well, sport is very isolating. I think you have a team that prepares you, and I think that's very relevant to business as well. You hire the best people that you believe are going to get you to the top, but you pick up your bag and you go into center court, and it's like you're on your own. It's your own thing. You control your wins and you control your losses, and at the end of the day, yes, everyone takes a little bit of responsibility, but I think that's the greatest thing about being the champion at the end of a tournament is you can carry that whole responsibility of being a winner. But the toughest part on the other side of it is a much darker, lonelier aspect of sport is that you go back to your hotel room and everything is upon you.
You know, some women may hold themselves back because they want to be liked by everybody. What do you say to those women?
I think you have to be true to, it's like a very old answer, but you do have to be true to who you are. When you're on a mission and when you're committed, you're not only going to make friends along the way, and not everyone, our society in today's world, not everyone's going to like everything that you do, from what you wear to the things that you say. And ultimately, does that really matter? If you believe in your actions and if you believe in your words and if you believe in your goals and your future, that is the most important thing, because that's how you will carry yourself, not everyone else.
You say you didn't really want to make friends on the court because it makes it difficult to compete. Do you feel the same way about business?
I'd say maybe that is a little different. The thing that I do, there's similarities with sport and business in the sense that, I am very competitive and I do want to be successful in the businesses that I have. I get off the court and I work through things in my mind of things that I want to achieve and people that I want to work with. But I think I've definitely understood and still learning the relationship building process, and I think they call it networking, but it's a little bit of a cold and strange word. But in a sense, it's kind of like getting to know people and the connections that you make with people, and people always come back in your life at some point. And in the end, it's always a very, very small world.
What's the most important lesson you learned at Harvard?
I would say it was really about the people. I found myself in a classroom with 50 people that were much wiser and older than I was, and mostly men as well. It was probably 80% male to 20% female, and I had to be the one that would come up and speak to them. I think there's also like a little bit of intimidation factor. I didn't think they expected me to be in a classroom. And so speaking to them and understanding what everybody does, and we're there kind of on the same mission, maybe for different ideas and different products, and some are CEOs, some are starting in a company. It's not just about going to Harvard and getting a stamp or a little piece of paper with a diploma. There's so much more. For me, it was really getting to know the people and like that unfamiliar ground, because I'm always around people I know. So just throwing myself out there and like asking a question in a schoolroom. It's like, okay, at Harvard, when you're like not having an answer, but you're asking a question, like, okay, once I did that, I cooled down.
What do you say to people who say you only got certain contracts because you're blonde and good looking?
Well, good luck. You can go to the hairstylist and get your color blonde, but it takes a lot more than that. If somebody does say that, then I guess you could go and try it yourself. And walk the walk and don't talk the talk, right? That's something that I've heard many people say, but I do believe in that a lot.
How did you financially adjust when you lost some endorsements?
I think I've done a really great job over the course of my career to manage the money that I've had. I invest good money, I'd say solid money, to have a great team, because great talent is not cheap, and that's in any field, whether you're an athlete or I understand the importance of treating your team really well. Was it tough to not get one extension out of the amazing amount of brand partnerships that I had? Yeah, of course, because it was, and not so much about the money, it was more about the relationship itself and kind of the people that you work with. I think that's much more valuable than money.
You work with a lot of female entrepreneurs. You try to mentor them. What's one lesson about entrepreneurship you're trying to impart to them?
I say when you're just starting out, we always feel that we have to be perfect at all different segments. And I came into a candy business not being familiar with the category, but I think there's something really cool and special about coming into a certain job description, not necessarily being that, because you're able to bring in a different point of view. You're able to have a different opinion. And even if someone has an opinion of their own, it's nice to have a challenger, because I think from that is where you create a lot of great ideas.